Hi guys, Kyle here from Unstoppable. Today I'm here with Kevin Holland, who is an absolutely brilliant runner. Someone I've known now for a couple of years, actually knew him before we realised we had both running in common. And he's been a massive inspiration and put me through my paces on more than one occasion. So we're going to talk through some questions and get some tips really on how you can learn from what Kevin's done, his massive wealth of experience over the years. Last year Kevin was in the top 10 for male veteran 40s. Which is massive for being in the UK. So he's got a lot of experience and advice to offer. So let's get stuck into it. So, how did you first get into running, Kevin?
I was very little when I first got into running, and it's a really fond memory actually. It's interesting. So I was at my primary school called Northlandswood back in Sussex, and I just ran an inter-schools race against all of the local schools at another school called Harlands. And I think I was it'd be called year 5 now,
yes.
And I finished 4th, and I was like, oh, this is quite good. And there were some really good runners there at the time, and some of those guys ran for the local clubs. I'm originally from a place called Haywards Heath in Sussex. They ran for Haywards Heath Harriers. Mum and Dad asked if I wanted to go, and that was literally the start of the journey. So yeah, never looked back since then really.
So about 9-10 years old then, something like
yeah,
that?
about that. So I think that would have been when I joined Haywards Heath Harriers, yeah, just thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think probably when I was young, it was nice to be to do something quite well, but also just get muddy. I was a boy; I liked running around the field and getting muddy. I think so. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Excellent. And obviously, over the years, you've done sort of other sports and things as well, but running seems to have been something you've come back to always as the kind of go-to. What's been the main thing that's made you want to come back to each time?
I think it's a really tough sport when you're constantly competing against yourself, because you've always got that personal best, but also you're judging yourself against nationally. And now with things like Power of 10, that's really easy to do. And
can you quickly explain what Power of 10
is? So anyone who doesn't know, Power of 10s are a really great. It's a website fundamentally, and it tracks your performances, but it matches you against all of the people that are in your age group or over those distances, so you can actually see exactly where you rank across the country for the different distances. So that's really nice. So you can kind of spy on people. That's kind of what you can do. So that's really, really useful. I like it. I like to, I challenge myself really. I set some high challenging goals for myself, but it's an easy way to do it. But I was running so after Haywards Heath Harriers, I joined a club called Crawley, and I still run for Crawley actually. And I was kind of a county standard runner, 7th or 8th in the county as a junior, and then suddenly one year in the inter-counties, which is if you finish a certain position in your county champs, you go and represent your county in that race. I finished 6th, I think, and I was like, oh, so suddenly I've gone from 6th or 7th in the county to 6th or 7th in the country in one race. I was like, okay. And at the time I was playing football, and I've played at an okay level of football, so I was balancing the two. And eventually I sort of followed the running pathway, and just got some fantastic opportunities and had some really great races. But I always carried on playing a little bit of football, which always frustrated all of my coaches.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because I probably could have been a bit better. But then I gave up for a few years. So I'm 43 now, I'm 44 this year, and probably from about 30 to 34, 35 I did very little running. For a couple of those years I didn't run at all, and a couple of years I just kind of mucked about really. But the last 2 years I've been back training really hard, slowly getting faster, but I need to run faster.
And what is your kind of next target then?
So I think it's really hard. So I have to forget about all of the things I did when I was younger, because it's a lot easier to run a lot faster when you're younger. And so really my aims are specific times over certain distances. So over 5k I'd like to get as close to 15 minutes as I can this year. For 10k I'd like to run as close to 31:30 as I can this year. 10 miles around 52.5 ideally, and half marathon a low 72 would be good. So they're my kind of aims. Relatively decent, and in my age group that will put me really, again, quite high up nationally, and that's all I need really. If that means I win some races, that's great. But actually short term I'm racing the Southern Cross Country Championships this weekend down in Parliament Hill, which will be a mud fest, 9 miles of fun. And as we were just talking about, I think the last time I ran it was 2006, and I finished 9th senior. I'll be really happy with 109th, so we'll just go in and see how it goes. Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the things I really like about Kevin in particular, is we do have a bit of a laugh as well, but for all his massive achievements, he's still really down to earth, and there isn't any ego with how Kevin is, which is brilliant to see. It's one of my favourite things about running as well. That you do see some fantastic runners, and for the most part, all really down to earth people. There's not the kind of ego you get with other sports, which is absolutely brilliant to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think because of that, you keep friends. So actually, my current coach is someone I used to race, but actually, I'm really passionate. I like running, so. I will run with anyone, so I run with people that might run 9 or 10 minute miles, and I'll run with people that are faster. So I like getting up and I like going out, and often people say, "Well, you don't want to come running with me?" And I'm like, I'll come running with you. It might be that I do a little bit of a run before it and a little bit of a run after it, but I will keep them company, and I will hopefully help them just be a little bit more motivated and give them someone to go out with and talk to. And I think that's a really important part. And there are people with that don't necessarily have those kind of views, and some people are really single-minded. That's their own choice.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
ultimately, it's a really nice community, and certainly the club we run for, and most other clubs have got that feeling. So, and certainly in Norfolk, actually, probably more than anywhere I've been, Norfolk's got a really nice community of runners.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what's kind of the biggest thing from that, and what's the biggest motivation within that community for you?
I think what I like to see, I think I've really enjoyed seeing how supportive. Obviously individual clubs and their club members are really supportive, but actually all clubs seem to support one another. Obviously East Anglia, a lot of people don't travel out of it to go and race, so people regularly see each other at the races, and I just think it's generally yes, it's competitive, but things like the mob matches, it's really great. Two clubs come together. That didn't exist when I was younger, and that's not the kind of format of athletics I came through. I was running in British leagues, and you were there to win, and the opposition were the enemy, I guess. And that's what I actually enjoy most now. I have really high expectations of how I run, but equally then I love cheering everybody else on, and think the park run's obviously been something that's really changed things, and I really enjoy going back round after I've run the park run and thanking all of the volunteers. I just think that's really changed, and it's a real positive. Yes, there's all of the physical benefits, obviously, of being an athlete, but actually the mental well-being and those social aspects are really fundamentally key to what we do. So that's something that when I was racing at my best level at 22, 23, I didn't consider, and now I really value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does change. Obviously, the parkrun has been a massive thing in the last few years. I mean, the mob match is something that Wyndham Athletic Club and Norfolk Gazelles did fairly recently. We've done a few over the last year or so. But the last one we did was just before Christmas, just after Christmas, just before, and there were 70 plus people from each club there, which is more than this particular park run gets in total on some weeks. So for 140 runners from two clubs, all cheering each other on, but equally egging each other on and pushing each other as well, was brilliant. And it's a nice friendly atmosphere. We won, not that matters. But it is good fun, and there is that friendly competition there to kind of keep people pushing on, and to see people at parkrun who never usually go was fantastic as well. So, what's your proudest achievement, do you feel, within running?
I think it's about trying to balance the two things out. So I'll go back to when I was half decent, which was quite a long time ago. I think so. It's kind of it's really interesting. So I've been really fortunate. I've run, actually, it's a bit convoluted, but I've run for South of England and Great Britain. But I've also run as a senior for Wales. So there's a bit of a mixture there. I guess ultimately the first time I got my GB vest. So I had a really good season, and it was 1994, so a very long time ago. But you have to qualify to get into the World Cross Country Championship qualifying, so you have to qualify to get into the qualifier, and then you get selected. So I'd finished high up in enough races to get selected for the South of England, and then raced in Alnwick, and I finished 5th, which was really important because they chose the first 5, and then they chose the other races. So that was the first time I got selected to run for Great Britain. So I went to the World Cross Country Championships in 1994 in Budapest as a junior international. Had a shocking race, but that's the way it goes. So that's probably, I think that's my proudest moment then. But I've probably 2 others really, and one of those is running Brighton Marathon in sub 3 hours. And although I should be able to run 1,000,000 miles faster, I hadn't broken 3 hours in 4 other attempts, so I was really proud of myself. And I wasn't running lots then, actually. I just focused just on that race, so that's quite good. And then the last bit is really actually is more of a bigger kind of achievement, which I think actually is just the last year. how I've got back to being competitive. So it's kind of actually where I am with my level of fitness now. I'm really pleased with, although again previously discussed that I want to run faster. So yeah.
Well, it's one of the things and we're all there, I'm 28, and I do think about this as well. Where do you kind of start to notice there's that line of it's going to be harder and harder and harder to ever to get to kind of where you have been in the past?
Yeah.
And you've already said you've accepted that is, those are cool, that's great, you've achieved, but then kind of setting new targets for what your own activities and your own kind of your own process and outcome goals rather than related to anything else necessarily.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. What's the thing that you've had maybe as an injury then that you've kind of had to move past that you found was the most difficult thing to get past, and what did you do to get past it?
Yeah. So I was really lucky when I was younger and playing football and running that I didn't pick up many injuries. I almost can't remember any injuries when I was up till kind of 30 when I stopped. But actually getting back into the sport and trying to play football as an older person, really my calves have been a disaster. They're knotted, they're a bit of a mess. And I probably don't look after things. I mean, I think we'll go on to talking a bit about maybe some training methods, but you know what? Stretch, stretch, stretch and stretch. And by the way, I still don't stretch, which is probably part of my problem. But I think when you do other sports, if you try and combine sports like football where you're twisting and turning and actually the footwear is pretty poor, and then you try to run, they're so opposed to each other that I would find that that would always come back and be my Achilles heel. And I think it's frustrating because you put in the hard work. Football's really easy. You turn up on the Saturday and you play and you go home. And you put in maybe 40, 50, 60, 70 miles, and then after 3 weeks you get a tight calf and then you put it training. It's so frustrating. So I don't play football at all now, and I do try and look after myself where possible, but I think the age part definitely means I get more injuries. So it was a year and a bit ago that I pulled my hamstring. I'd run 18 miles a day before, and I was 6 miles into my next day's worth of running, I pulled my hamstring and I was out for a month. And it happened almost identically this year, but with my calf, and that was before Christmas, and it took me 3.5 weeks to recover. So I think the age and injury aspect is that I think you get little niggles and little tweaks that maybe when I was 25 I almost ran off, that at 43 I have to rest, and I have no choice in that now, which is frustrating because you want to train, but the right thing to do is rest and get the right, whether it be go to a physio or someone that that can help, but fundamentally resting or rolling or stretching is what to do.
Yeah, and I think obviously there are ways to train around these injuries. I posted a video recently, a quick Q&A video around how you can work on other things, whether it be swimming or cycling, or doing some resistance training, work on your core flexibility and core strength. All these aspects you can train on, but it's not quite the same. It can still stand you in a good stead, but trying to get back into running is obviously the hard part again each time. So, are there any particular training methods you've had really good success with? Obviously, it varies individually, but what's worked really well for you?
I think that's really interesting. I think when I was younger, I really just ran. I ran to train. There wasn't really anything else that I did, and we didn't even really think much about the core. We did a little, kind of some circuit training, some basic training. For me, it's more about the methods of training than anything different. So I do still do a little bit of core work, but not a great deal. For me, it's about balancing your mileage and your tough runs with some real quality work and some real high intensity stuff. And I think the aspects that make the most improvement to me is where I'm going for longer runs and I drop some intervals in there. So it could be that over an hour and 10-minute run, I do 6 times 5 minutes at 75%, or something along those lines. So for me, getting your intervals right is really important. The other aspect, if you want to run faster, is to get the right level of speed work intertwined with that. But there's an increased risk of injury if you do that. So you've got to really carefully balance those things. And that's where really someone like yourself working with an athlete who does all of those other training aspects around it secures actually probably a lower chance of injury. So we've talked a lot about it, and I've got friends that talk about it. Actually, I don't spend enough time probably strengthening I just take it out. I'm running 60 miles a week, so all I do is take out, and I don't really strengthen or put things back in. And I think for anyone out there who's looking at getting into running and wants to have kind of a long career or some sustainability with it, it's really important to do all of the aspects that you video about and talk about. I'm not a perfect model in that because I've always just run. That's kind of what I did. I just trained and I just raced, and because I found I could run fast from that, we didn't think about other things. But actually, the older I get and the more I know about these aspects, it is about a big picture. You really do need all of those things. And with things like Strava, to be able to track other people's runners, so through my watch and Strava as an app, I've got good friends who are very good runners, and nearly all of them cycle at some point in the week. Even if it's every other week, that's a bit of a rest day. Or they do their core work, or they go for a swim. And actually, I don't do that. I find it hard to fit the running in, let alone some of those other aspects. But actually, they are outperforming me at the same age as me. So they're the people that are in the top 10, and they're the people that I would like to chase down. So I think it's really important you incorporate all of those aspects.
I mean, it must be difficult, obviously, so for those who don't know Kevin, Kevin's a personal and professional coach, so you can help people basically to look and unpick their goals and basically dig down to actually what they want to achieve and why. Actually, Kevin's done that with me about a year and a half ago now, and that was a big help for me. So trying to fit in running a business, being a parent, and running 60, 70 miles a week is a hell of a challenge. So trying to fit those other parts of the training in, obviously that would mean something has to go, and obviously parenting can't really happen. You can't really not work either. Yeah. So it is finding that balance for you as an individual that works, obviously, ultimately. And it's what I always encourage anyone who's watching this to do, is try and find your own balance that works for you, rather than following some training plan that says you must run 4 days a week or 5 days a week. For some people, 3 times a week of high intensity with a little bit of core work, a bit of strength work elsewhere is all it needs to be. It's tends to be what I do, because I know if I run 5 times a week, I will be in pain and I will get an injury. So it's always finding that, and obviously Kevin does a different way, and it seems to work very well for him for the most part.
I think it's the prioritising, and so when I do coach and I work with people, it's finding the time and making it important. And actually, I had a little bit of plantar fasciitis actually at the same time as I had the calf injury, and I was speaking to a friend who just said, just do some calf stretches when you're brushing your teeth. Yeah. Do some do some stretches while you're watching telly. And my little boy now regularly gives me the little orange cricket ball that I was standing on. He's like, "This is your ball," because he knows. And actually, you can build it in. It's not difficult to do, but it has to. It's not about being a priority, because those other things you've mentioned are my priorities. Of course, yeah. But it's about finding ways to make that all work. So I regularly, or I haven't done quite as much lately. It's been a bit chilly, but regularly I might be running at 5:45 in the morning. And actually, I have been known after a pool match on a Thursday night, I get home at 11 o'clock and I'll go for another run, because that's the only opportunity I've got to do it. Probably not the best way to advise people to train. There's much nicer times in the day to do it. But if you set yourself goals, sometimes you have to. You can't move the immovable, so sometimes you've got to take a bit of a hit on the head. But actually, I think probably the important bit around that then is to try and find ways to make sure your sleep and your nutrition's correct, to try to balance that out. And when you do have an opportunity to rest properly.
So one last question then, what is the biggest tip you would give to someone who's not saying new to running, but looking to make some good improvements and have set themselves a really good strong target? What would be the one thing you'd say this is the most important thing to do?
There is no shortcut for the training, ultimately, so you have to put it in. If you want to run a fast 5k, let's use 5k because it's such a common distance people race. You need to double the distance as your longest run, definitely. There's no other way around that. And within that, you've got to work out how you can justify some intervals so you get used to running at the pace you want to run at race pace. And I think that's the big thing I see with all of the people that I follow in various guises. You've got to incorporate some, as close as you can get to race pace running within your longer sessions, so that when you go to race or just go to run a personal best, it's not always about racing the others, you're just trying to race your own self, you are more comfortable at running at that speed. And there's nothing like a race for getting you running faster than you think you can, but you've got to incorporate some of that into your training, definitely.
Yeah, that's it's one of my favourite things. Something we did a few months back when you took me out. And actually I did a similar thing on Sunday, 3 mile warm up, 5 1 mile efforts with half a mile jog recovery, and then again another 2.5 miles 3 mile cool down. And these sessions have been massively beneficial. So typical car horns going on. But we're now drawing the video to guys, so it's just fine. But yeah, so Kevin's going to have a go at one of our treadmill challenges, either running a mile as fast as you can, or doing 10% incline 10 miles an hour. So we'll draw it to a close there, but thanks so much for coming in, Kevin. It's been great to sit down and have a chat with you.
Always a pleasure.
We'll get out for a run again at some point again soon. So if you've got any questions for Kevin, anything you want to know or to elaborate on anything we've talked about, please get in touch, and I'll pass the message on to Kevin, and we'll get back to you. See you soon, guys.